The Prime Minister stepped up her attack on the opposition leader today, calling him disgusting for linking job losses to the carbon tax. It came as Julia Gillard pledged to protect auto industry jobs and Alcoa announced it was reviewing the viability of its aluminium smelter in Geelong. And the Prime Minister built on her new economy theme, unveiling plans to launch 2 satellites as part of the national broadband network. Shortly, I'll be speaking with the opposition communications spokesman Malcolm Turnbull about that. But first, this report from political editor Heather Hewitt.
Now, what is this story called? Okay, very good. Now, God, this is a hard word. What's that say?
Swoosh.
Swoosh went the wind in the top of the tree, swishing the branches and tossing the leaves.
So it's come to this. Week 1 of the new parliamentary year, and the opposition leader is reading Harry McClary stories to Canberra primary school kids, of course in the presence of TV cameras. Not only that, but he throws in a political lecture.
Unfortunately, in the hurly-burly of Parliament and the, I guess, contest of political life, it can suddenly get a bit distracting, and you can think that the only thing that matters is, for argument's sake, Kevin Rudd replacing Julia Gillard or vice versa. But that's not what it should be about.
I'm here with Ministers Crean and Conroy. And
back at Parliament House, Julia Gillard faced journalists who, for the first time in days, didn't ask a single question about her leadership or Kevin Rudd's ambitions. She'd called a news conference to announce the construction of 2 new satellites to deliver high-speed broadband to remote areas.
As we're building the new economy for the future, we've got to make sure we've got the best of technology. There's no point asking our businesses and industries to compete if they're using yesterday's tools.
These 2 Ka-band satellites featuring the most advanced satellite technology available anywhere in the world. They will provide a dedicated broadband service for the most remote 3% of premises in Australia.
The clear aim was to show the government getting on with the job after its troubled start to the year. So the Prime Minister also highlighted her meeting this morning with car workers worried about the future of their industries.
Of strengthening the Australian economy.
At every turn, that catch cry, the new economy, bobbed up. And by the way, get used to it, it's going to be hammered all year.
Car manufacturing needs to be part of our future, part of our new economy, because it does have at its forefront design and innovation skills which are important not only to car manufacturing but to the rest of manufacturing. Not every job can be guaranteed, but we will be working hard to make sure that we are manufacturing cars in this country.
But this coincided today with more job losses on the horizon in yet another sector. The announcement by the Alcoa aluminium smelter at Point Henry in Victoria that it's reviewing its operations because it's no longer making a profit. It blames the high Australian dollar and soaring costs. But Tony Abbott has other ideas.
Obviously, if there was no carbon tax, the Point Henry smelter would be in a much better position. The carbon tax is an additional substantial cost to an operation which is already losing money.
It was a theme the opposition pursued in question time in the Parliament.
And isn't this more evidence that this is the worst possible time to introduce the world's biggest carbon tax?
I was disgusted this morning to see the opposition trying to use job losses at Alcoa to continue its fear campaign on carbon pricing when the CEO of Alcoa made it absolutely clear that this was not to do with carbon pricing. What sort of people would use the distress of working people on hearing about job losses for their own political ends?
Will the Treasurer now admit that the carbon tax will cost Australians jobs, jobs, jobs?
We put in place the response to the global financial crisis and the global recession, which protected jobs in this country, Mr Speaker. We have low unemployment, but there is pressure on our economy. The fact is a higher dollar is causing stresses and strains across a number of sectors of our economy.
And there's bound to be more stress ahead. Little wonder the government was trying to turn attention to confusing statements in opposition ranks this week about when a coalition government would bring in a budget surplus, including Tony Abbott's update on radio this morning that this would happen as quickly as possible.
From the Leader of the Opposition, the Shadow Treasurer and the Shadow Finance Spokesman, the three stooges of opposition economic policy.
The Treasurer was referring to varying positions this week on the Coalition's surplus timeframe.
We will do it as soon as possible. I mean, look, you've got to be measured in this.
Well, it just depends. As I say, there's so much uncertainty around the numbers.
Bringing the budget back to surplus is critical, Mr Speaker. We have a commitment to bring the budget back to surplus, but the opposition leader today walked away from that, scrapped the commitment to coming back to surplus.
This is the stuff of political point scoring, but whether it has any impact on an electorate that seems disenchanted with politics generally is another matter altogether.
Heather Hewitt with that report.